Educate, entertain, enjoy.
You're listening to Aspen Waite Radio.
Good morning. You are listening to a standing pole.
Standing Paul's not feeling very outstanding today, so I'm not sure what's going on inside Paul's brain. Wish I'd been drinking or something, but it's not true. So how are you all out there in listener land today on this lovely blue, cold, sunny morning, though? So that's good after all this rain. And today we have our special guest, Roya Croudace. Good morning to you, Roya.
Good morning, Paul. Good morning, outstanding Paul.
Yes, I actually decided that was actually decided for me, and I prefer original Paul or something more chaotic, to be honest. So are you in Hampshire at the moment?
I'm in Surrey at the moment.
Oh, so you're not in your house?
Yes, I am. I am in Epsom, Surrey.
I don't know why I thought you lived in Hampshire. I can't remember where I got that from.
I'm not sure. I spend a lot of time in Hampshire, so it could be there. In my previous role, I covered Surrey and Hampshire.
Epsom, fine place, obviously home of the Derby.
Yes, absolutely.
It must be quite annoying to live in Epsom around Derby time, I should think.
To be honest with you, this year it was an absolute joy because obviously it all got kind of, with what's been happening over the last year and a half, it was quite nice to have some people anyway around for the Derby and for it to actually happen. But no, it's a great event. It's a good day. So,
Roya is a good example of the Aspen Waite family at work, I would say. So my former coach was a guy called Steve Jones, who was my coach for more years than probably more than you've lived, Drew or Nathaniel anyway. Very long time. So I used to meet Steve Roya quite often in Warsash, where I have a client, the sort of family as well. So that was sort of where I met Steve. So Steve's quite an interesting character, and hadn't heard from Steve for quite a long time. Maybe going right back to the start of the pandemic, and then recently he said to me, "You got to meet this Roya lady." So, which is very exciting, really, because as you will hear in a minute, Roya's sort of overall aims with business are very similar to my own. So I think we're going to see just how much synergy there is there, aren't we?
We certainly are, Paul. And no, it was great to be introduced, and we've talked about this as well. That it's these connections and collaborations that's what it's all about, actually.
It is, yes. So anyone that puts collaboration on anything I read is always, and of course the thing as well, Drew. I actually watched an interview that Roya did with Surrey Business News, was it? Something like that. Jackie, somebody interviewed you.
It was a few years ago, wasn't it? You found it somehow on.
Yeah.
No, it was good. It was interesting. I think it was the one that was straight after, wasn't it? It was about 4 years ago, straight after the vote that we had for Brexit. So it was about just setting the scene for businesses.
No, I think it's always if one was giving an analogy between, say, interviewing and business or life generally, it always seems to me that your interview is going to go a lot better if you bother to do some research about a person, and it's just common sense, really, isn't it? So and the other thing, being a bit geeky, I was saying to the boys, being a bit of a perfectionist, one doesn't like to make mistakes, but I think I was referring to I watched Exeter play Sale yesterday, and I've got very interested in sort of the delivery of the commentator, because obviously doing something similar myself. And actually, I think when people do make mistakes, if they do it in the right way, I think it doesn't lessen your view of them at all, actually. So I was quite interested listening to the interviewer as well, as what sort of questions he asked you and so on and so forth. So after a rich and varied career, you now have your business, which is rather interestingly called Alloy Business Innovation. So what is Alloy supposed to engender?
Yes, thank you for that. Certainly has been quite a varied career. Thoroughly enjoyed all of it, and it's kind of finalised into Alloy. So the name came up as a group of us, the usual where you sit round, have a drink, think about names.
Really? Never do that.
No, never. And that's where alloy came. And the thinking behind it actually is all around, like alloy, where you have different threads coming in to make something stronger. And that for me is exactly what alloy business is all about.
That was quite interesting. So at the moment, Roya, we have a very talented young lad called Nathaniel, although he did play Robbie Williams over my grandstand music this morning. And you were perking up on that, weren't you, Nathaniel? So did you like that?
Yeah, just listening in, quite interesting.
Yeah, it's funny because listening to you talking about alloy, it's sort of obvious, and I think at first glance I was thinking that's an interesting name, Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Things coming together to make them stronger, I suppose. Yeah, that could be a good slogan for you, couldn't it? Alloy, together we are stronger. How about that?
There you go. Are you going to charge me for that one, or can I use that one? I like it. No, absolutely. You're right. And that is the fundamental piece about alloy, is about putting things together to make businesses stronger. But also it's going back to collaboration and pulling in experts and getting businesses together.
Right. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's find out why Roya is the person she is today. So where did you grow up then, Roya?
So I was born in Iran, and I came over here when I was 6. I was sent to boarding school over in the UK. So quite a mixture, really. So I came over here, went to boarding school, and here I am now. Yeah. Yes.
Yes, we've agreed not to talk politics today, which is I mean, what can one say? I mean, I think the sad thing, apart from anything else, is Persia is just such a great name. I'm as a historian, I was brought up on the Persians fighting the Greeks, and you've got Xerxes the first and second, and Darius and all that, and now you've got the country that is Iran today. It just seems like you just wouldn't believe it. I mean, what would Darius say, if he turned up in Tehran, do you think?
I don't know. My history, actually, I have to say. So yes, you're right. Obviously, and normally, interestingly, I would say that I'm Persian. I think I just realised I said I'm from Iran.
Yes.
But interestingly, I was just talking to my son. It was only yesterday, Paul, saying that because I've really been brought up in the UK, I've been back probably a handful of times since. That one of the things that is on my bucket list is actually to go and learn more about the history of Persia and the Persian Empire and Iran, because we were spending a lot of time yesterday talking a lot about World War I, World War II, watching some great series on Netflix, actually, and explained to my son why that was the reason why I went to university and did politics, actually, because I found 20th century politics so fascinating. But that is on my bucket list, and yes, it would be interesting. It would be interesting to see what he would say.
So when you were born, this would have been quite a bit before Ayatollah Khomeini, for instance, would it?
Well, I'm not going to comment on that. You should. I was going to say that's a sly way of trying to find out how old I am. But yes, it was. Yes, it was. But no, you're right, Paul. I can't deny it.
So Roya is 39. I'm very sorry, listeners.
All my friends and colleagues sound 21, but hey, I'll be 39 for today.
That's quite interesting. I expect Drew and Nathan probably wouldn't know this. So, I mean, as I say, apart from the facts, so I think you'd have to say, you probably would have, if you were going into, what would be called antiquity. Then you had two great civilizations really that would stand out, being the Persians and the Greeks, well before the Romans were even Romans. So those of you those out there, so Italy was dominated by the Etruscans. Did you know that, Bruce? So in the nicest possible way.
I can see, Paul, that you are you're a real historian, actually. So I think we would enjoy separate conversations. Actually, I think there's a lot of learning there to be done from you.
Yeah. So of course you've got Persian carpets, and without Persian carpet, you wouldn't have had the 1001 Nights or whatever it's called, and.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, and of course, even now there's some fabulous restaurants around. I think Persian food is right up there for me.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some fantastic ones, obviously, in London and in Surrey. I'm not sure I can mention names on both, but I'm sure there are in Hampshire as well. But yeah, they like their food, I have to say, and patisserie. I have a sweet tooth, and their patisserie is great.
So you were sent. So I presume your parents were reasonably well off, were they?
They were quite comfortable. Yes, absolutely. I mean that's why I was sent over here, and I had an aunt that was living here at the time anyway, so she'd gone over earlier in the 50s to France, actually, to university, to the Sorbonne, and then came here. So that was the thinking, really. It was for the education side.
And what did your father do?
My father was in various roles, but he had his own businesses primarily.
Okay, so he wasn't really an influence on you as such in terms of how you...
No. I came over here and was kind of brought up by my aunt, really, going forward.
So did you see your mother and father much after that?
Intermittently, to be perfectly honest, because obviously the revolution happened, and then it was quite challenging to go back and forth anyway. So no, fundamentally, I mean, actually, interestingly, I've seen a lot more of them recently, which is great. Well, I say recently, take COVID out of the equation. But my half brothers, which has been fantastic, actually. But no, not during that period. No.
So when you came over to England, were you old enough to sort of sit there and think, "Gosh, this is different," or what were your first sort of thoughts?
Well, I was lucky, as I said, because I actually had my aunt here, and she was a French teacher in the first boarding school I went to, and I think trying to think back. I think initially it must have been quite challenging because I didn't speak English actually at all. But I was very fortunate to go to the boarding school, and I loved it. Got on very well. It was a very traditional boarding school. I now look back on it. My second one was less traditional, but the first one was very, very traditional. But no, it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and thoroughly enjoyed it. It was in Surrey, actually, somewhere near Hawley. It doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately.
So boys or no boys in this school?
No, mixed, which was both of them were actually. Yeah.
I wish you people could see Roya's face at this moment. So it's like, you don't have to ask any more questions there. It's thank you for such a definitive answer, young lady. Yeah, that was very cool.
I was a very good girl, Paul.
Well, I'm sure. Yes. You could be. Anyway, let's not go there. So, what were their favourite subjects at school?
Well, actually, do you know? So going back, obviously, it wasn't about the Persian Empire, but I loved history. Absolutely loved history and English. So through my aunt, actually, I became I used to devour books much more than I do now. And I keep saying this, that I need to get back to setting time aside. Yeah, but I used to love history, used to love English, just threw myself into reading. I remember I entered a competition probably when I was about 10 or something, one of these essay competitions. And I think I came with these national ones, and I did quite well out of it, in it. And I remember just being quite proud about that. And I think that probably encouraged me actually to read more as well.
And what about sports? What happened there? That was interesting, wasn't it? We had a bit of a double feedback there.
Were
you a sporty girl?
I wasn't a massively sporty girl, but I have to say, I was very fortunate in that where I was, we got the opportunity to do a real varied, so everything from archery to shooting to judo, and then later I was in the hockey and netball team. So I can't say I was one of your, full-on sporty people, but I did enjoy it. Yeah, it's one of those things that I every so often, get myself back into it and then get a bit lazy and then think, no, I'm going to get back into it. So yeah.
In my mind, I definitely see you with a stick. Yeah, I see you running along with your
my hockey stick.
You look like a hockey stick girl to me.
I don't know how to take that one.
I like hockey. But late on in my life, I started playing hockey when I was how old I was, more than 30, I think, and I really enjoyed it. It's a great sport, actually.
It's a great game, yeah, really good game. And
social game
really
as well.
Enjoyed that. It is, yeah, all very much team games, actually, yeah.
So did I hear you say you went to university and you did politics? Is that right?
I did, yes. So just because I quite enjoyed it, actually. I was initially going to go and do law, but I had to retake an A-level, and I ended up going to Swansea University, and did politics, the University by the Sea. I'm okay to mention universities, aren't I, on radio?
Why not?
Name of universities, that's fine.
Say what you like, as far as I'm concerned.
But yeah, I think what swung it for me, which I'm not sure is the right reason, was the fact that it was literally by the sea. You've got some of the best National Trust speeches, literally, kind of, a couple of miles down
the Gower just up the road.
You know it well, Paul. The Gower, Mumbles. In the final year, actually, Cinderella's was the nightclub at the end of the pier that was the place at the time. Anybody who went to Swansea, by the way, that's listening to this will now be able to go, so that was when she was there. But yeah, it was great. Thoroughly enjoyed it. So I went to Swansea, did politics. Then after 3 years, thought, right, what am I going to do with that? Then went to either become an MP or go to what was at the time, it's now John Moores University, but go to Liverpool, and I did a postgrad diploma in marketing, which is kind of how it.
John Moores being the Littlewoods man, isn't that right?
I don't. John Moores. Yeah. Do you know more? Do you know what? I don't know. I just know that Liverpool Poly became John Moores University.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he used to own Littlewoods.
Okay. But yeah, I had a thoroughly good time there, actually, for a year. Very different from Swansea, but great city.
Sorry, whenever I think about Liverpool, I always want to tell really bad jokes. So I'm not going to do that today because I'll alienate everyone. Just going back very quickly to Swansea. This will tell me a lot about you. Did you ever do the Mumbles Mile?
I did, yeah. In fact, I was just about to say it to you as well, but I jumped onto Cinderella's. Yeah, I mean, the last year we actually lived in Mumbles as well, which made the Mumbles Mile much easier. But yes, did the Mumbles Mile several times, which for me was quite challenging, Paul, because I'm quite a lightweight when it comes to drinking.
Yeah, one of my greatest ever days was which I've told the story many times, including on air. I was the president of the Accountancy Society at Cardiff University.
You went to Cardiff. Okay.
Yeah, so we're both Prifysgol Universitas Cambrensis.
Exactly.
University of Wales for you. So I managed to being a bit of a creative chap. I obviously managed to get quite a lot of funding for our society. I can't remember what day trip we were allegedly going on, but the day trip was actually a coach trip to the Mumbles Mile, and of course, so do you remember the story, Drew? So I can't remember how many pubs there are. You basically have to have a pint in every pub in the Mumbles.
Yeah.
And we started playing rugby on the coach on the way back. Seriously, so I actually played rugby on the coach, and one of my friends who used to have a male handbag, so he deserved to get hurt. I tackled him, and he went headlong and hit his head against the back window, and I thought I'd killed him.
Oh
True
my
story.
gosh.
Yes, we had to take him to Bridgend General Hospital, and I was actually sitting there thinking, "Oh my God, I'm going to go to prison." And the doctor came out. I'm not sure. Can I say this word? I have to say ist, don't I? The doctor came out and said, "Buddy, there's nothing wrong with your friend other than he's absolutely ist." Profound relief sprung across me. So yes. Anyway, I'm very happy to hear you've done the Mumbles Mile multiply. So that confirms your hockey stick is now definitely in your hand. So before and after the match, I'm pleased to hear that. Anyway, so you went off to Liverpool, managed not to get your car stolen, or did you have a car?
No, I didn't at that time, actually. I wasn't driving. I don't think I'd even passed my test. No, I didn't. I was forced to take my test later when I got my first job. But yeah, I went to Liverpool. Found it a bit difficult first term, to be fair, because it was quite different. But by the second term, loved it. By the third term, I was applying for jobs locally.
Very good. So I think that's a good time. So it's always interesting sitting here with Drew. So Drew's looking at me and I'm thinking, does he fancy me or is he trying to get me to do something? So just in case he's sort of saying you're talking too much, we're going to pick your first track today, which is Happy by Pharrell Williams. What is music important to you and why did you pick this?
Music's really important to me. I love music. And I chose this because it's a song that every time I push it on, even now, several years after it came out, it just puts a smile on my face. So everyone says I generally walk around with a smile on my face, but this one just makes my smile even wider. I love it.
Good. So we have the hockey sticking, mumble mile drinking Roya Croudace with the lovely Happy and Pharrell Williams.
Aspen Waite Radio. Full weight.
So there we are. I hope Roya's made you all happy out there in listener land, wherever you may be, including in Iran. How many listeners we've got in Iran, do you think? More than in Iraq, maybe. Who knows? Anyway, so Roya's running around in Liverpool. So did you say you applied for jobs in Liverpool, and did you get one?
I got to the third round, actually. I got taken, a group of us that got to the final round got taken out for dinner, and it was one of those where you're being observed. So and then for the interview, but no, unfortunately, I didn't get that one, and ended up coming back down to London actually after that.
To do what?
Well, I fell into, so I did my marketing, and marketing was pretty new at that time. So we're not, it's not talking hundreds of years ago here, but it was still, it was fairly,
like with Xerxes.
It was a fairly new thing. It had come over from the States. So I actually ended up falling into advertising and media sales. And actually I was going to say I ended up in London. I didn't straight away. I ended up in great publishing house, one of the bigger, more independent ones actually, based in Teddington, working on some motor magazines like Auto Car and Motor and What Car initially, and that's when I actually passed my test, because I ended up being the sales rep and having to suddenly be travelling the length of the country. But yeah, so that was my kind of start in the publishing magazine world.
And how did you find that? Was it, were you well suited to that and skill wise, would you say?
Well, to be honest with you, actually, I always say this. On one hand, I remember my first few days sitting there. I was quite a kind of shy, quiet girl, really, thinking, what am I surrounded by? This kind of quite a big open plan office. I can see it now. Thinking, what am I doing? But I have to say, yeah, I mean, after the initial week, thoroughly loved it. Fantastic. I still go on. I'm a bit evangelical about this, actually. I still say to people, particularly young people, I've taken on some Kickstarters. I say to them that the sales training that I had in those first couple of weeks there just set me up for life. Whatever you end up doing. Just learning the communication skills, presentation, negotiation, just handling yourself was absolutely superb. And yeah, no, loved it really. And you know, that's kind of took me to the career I had in the advertising and publishing world, working with some really great brands.
What do you think the art of good selling is, very succinctly? I know you could talk for hours about this, but what simple messages would you give?
I could talk for us. I think a couple of skills I always say, and people always are surprised, but I say listening. So it's about listening. It's about having good interpersonal skills, and you know what? It's actually about believing in, you know, whatever it is that you're selling. Communication skills, but one of the things I always say is that if you can, you know, anybody I feel can learn that, and it's as relevant for your personal as is your work life, because you know, every time we're communicating, it's about making sure that, you know, don't want to use that cliche, it's that win-win situation. I've done it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting with selling. I think probably most salespeople try too hard. That's one of the things I'd say. They try too hard. They don't listen, and in fact, they're not even interested in listening. And I personally, I have very short thrift with people that phone me up, and the other thing is, now you probably get this as well, I get loads of emails from people telling me, which I take rather patronisingly, pompously, telling me I need them. You know, you need me because you can't get any business unless you talk to me, and you know, I've been through this, that, and the other. And I think, well, I always feel like sending an email back and going, well, if you like, I'll give you a course in marketing myself, what I'll do for free or something, you know. I think the thing really, isn't it, and it's probably true of yourself as a person, is probably the best thing you can do in life, especially in sales, would be just be a sort of a personable person, you know, being somebody that people you know, can relate to, and you know, that's probably the most important thing. And as you say, a bit of passion, maybe.
I absolutely. I think it's passion, it's trust, and empathy. I think kind of key things. Yeah, and I think then you kind of develop that recognition of somebody that's working, you know, with them, rather than trying too hard. And understanding really where the added value is. I think that's the key thing.
I'm going to ask you a really horrible question now, so I'm really sorry about this. What I think marketing is probably the most misunderstood business concept there is. Just very briefly, how would you sum up the difference between sales and marketing?
Gosh, that's a really good question. You probably got experts in each field that are sitting here going, what is she talking about? For me, actually, it's really interesting. For me, sales and marketing are two very different things, because a lot of the time, they get thrown together. So sometimes they get thrown together, and then sometimes, and this is the experience I've had recently, they work in silos. Within an organization, however small that organization or however large it might be. And actually, for me, the two need to work really well together. And without sounding boring, they all need to link back to whatever the company vision and mission and strategy is. So for me, marketing is around supporting, and I don't mean this in a good or bad way. I'm just looking at it needs to be supporting the sales effort, and it needs to have that ROI attached to it, because certainly from my experience, you know, sometimes and you know, I wear a marketing hat as well in sales, so I'm putting my hands up. Sometimes, you know, we can be in this arena, or certainly used to be, where it was all very nice. It's about branding, developing value propositions, raising awareness, and all the different strands of marketing, such as PR and mail shots. So for me, it's all that, and it's great. And depending on what the size of the company is, but then it needs to very much filter in and be a support for the sales team. The two can't really function separately from that side.
No, it's interesting. I'd say
I don't know if that answered your question precisely, but that's kind of feeds into each other, I guess. For me, it's all part of developing your value and your positioning and your brand, and then getting some sales.
It's interesting, as I say. I mean, I would say that marketing, probably other than media stuff, would be the thing I most enjoy doing, and I would say why does that keep happening? Anyway, I would say, without being arrogant, I think I probably get marketing as well as somebody could. But and of course, Ray, it's interesting talking to you, because you come at marketing from a sales background, and I come at marketing from a financial background. So I think one of the things I find very frustrating about so I'm the head of marketing in Aspen Waite, is you get a significant number of people that, colleagues, who fundamentally misunderstand the function of marketing. So it's like, you spend some money. It's interesting. You talked about return on investment, ROI. So it's like, if you spend some money, where are the new clients? You just did this. Where's all the fee? I can't see any fee income. And of course, I often give the analogy of the fact that I'm growing crops. And I say, I've got some low-hanging fruit in the orchard in front of me, and then I've got various different crops growing in fields. And some of those fields could be a very long way away. So it might be that you don't actually get to eat, that rice or whatever for 5 years. So...
Absolutely, Paul. And that's where I said it links back to your vision and objective for the business. And also, talking of financial, it's got to feed back into that. So, I talk to businesses at the moment, and as you know, digital marketing and SEO, and you can spend an absolute fortune on SEO. Yeah. So, it's around, it's all got to fit in to your finances, and that's where you do need to have that kind of monitoring. And yes, you're right, it could be that the ROI is feeding into your vision and objective for X number of years, or feeding into sales activity here and now. It can both be done, but at the same time, it's got to be done very much in unison. You can't be kind of throwing money at something and then and not seeing visibility. I think transparency.
So we have about 15 minutes left today, so I think this is a good time now to play your next track, which is by the legendary Prince. So were you a big Prince fan?
I was, yes, I was. And well, perhaps not so much now, but I still think he's great. I just don't listen to them as much. But certainly at university. So this song always takes me back to my university days and the student nightclubs.
Yes, well, we won't get into that, because this just to tantalise you listeners, this song, of course, is called Kiss. Thanks, Nathaniel.
Paul Waite.
Welcome back to Aspen Waite Radio. This is the Monday Breakfast Show, Paul's last Monday Breakfast Show. It's very sad. No, it's not really. I'm quite happy about it, because I go back to do the weekends. One very quick little thing about Prince. So again, I was watching a really interesting YouTube thing yesterday, Drew. Prince actually playing with George Harrison and Tom Petty and Jeff Lynne, While My Guitar Gently Weeps by the Beatles.
Yeah.
And Prince actually plays lead guitar on it, and just absolutely unbelievable. I don't think people realise just what a great guitarist Prince was. Anyway,
that was stunning, Paul.
Young Roya Croudace, 39 years old, ex-talented hockey player, drinker of many drinks in the Mumbles Mile, purveyor of dancing around in nightclubs. We've got 13 minutes to talk about your great business. So just sort of bringing you up to speed to make sure you have the best way of doing that. So you've had a rich career in sales and marketing, and also been a commercial director involved in a number of B2B and B2C brands. So you obviously understand. Well, I suppose that's really being at the sharp end, isn't it, of business? And obviously all this experience has led you to forming your own business. What is it? Do you have I'm trying to think. Do you have this sort of thing inside you where you really get a kick out of helping a lot of people?
I do, yeah. I mean, I do, and you used the word passionate before, and I sometimes I say to people it's a little bit sad, but I don't think it is actually. But I am absolutely passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about business. I'm passionate about helping people, and I guess so. Yes, you're right. I have had quite a varied roles, and my kind of initial career, I was very fortunate to get into the publishing media world actually, and ended up running some fabulous brands. And the great thing about publishing is that actually, though you're working for these big kind of corporates, you end up, it's a little bit like having your own little SME in the corporate, because you end up running these magazines and websites. And I had the opportunity to run from homes magazines to women's mags, taking on some men's mags onto digital. I was there at that time at what was EMAP at the time, to B2B. So, contract journal and electronics publications, etc. And the great thing was that you ended up running your kind of whole portfolio, but you had the support of course, the larger corporate side of things. So it was a fantastic experience, really kind of threw me into all areas of a business. I always say to businesses, I call it a business jigsaw. So I had to cover all those business basics. So came out of that and set up my own sales and marketing consultancy, then fell into government business support, did coaching and mentoring, and then till about 7-8 months ago, I was a director of the Enterprise EM3 Growth Hub, which is the business support government contract across Surrey and Hampshire, which is where Hampshire comes in. So during that time, I've worked with some incredible, probably, I mean, it sounds a weird figure, but if I say over 400, scale up businesses across all sectors, across all industries, from established to tech startups, and of course working and collaborating with both public sector and private organisations. So collaboration and innovation has always been an integral part of that. So for me, it's been fabulous because also it's about sharing that knowledge and sharing best practice. So so working with all those great businesses, for a while I've been thinking I want to come out and do this for myself. So I was very fortunate actually in end of last year to be able to step out and get involved in several projects. So Alloy is my own company. I call it a business growth agency, I guess because of my experience with ad agencies. For me, it's an agency. So what the challenges that I've found businesses have is that actually pulling together sometimes so for example, funding and finance, understanding what's out there, what the schemes are, and particularly at the moment, there's such great government schemes coming out anyway for all of these areas, and grants. So being able to pull all of that together for a business. So funding, finance, what I call smart growth, which again is pulling all those different facets together to technology, innovation. So working, helping businesses scale up, connecting them, collaborating, opening doors, but also supporting tech startups as well with commercialization. So that's been really interesting. So I've been very fortunate because I've kind of been thrown into those arenas for the last few years, and again, very fortunate to have the opportunity also to get involved with Innovate UK and KTN, and where I'm a non-exec, and a couple of my own tech projects as well. So it's quite varied, but I do believe that is where I can add value working with businesses. And again, I've been very fortunate to work with a couple of businesses since I left. And I'm now doing some mentoring as well on a great government scheme called Help to Grow. So it's varied, and that's what I love. And I think that's why I keep learning and growing, and that's what I can share with businesses.
So, number of things to talk about. So, you've actually got a couple of innovation projects you're involved in yourself, have you?
I have, yes. So that's taking my alloy hat off. It's been great. So there was a project in the education technology area where we were very fortunate to get some Innovate UK funding for last year. So that's
your business, or sorry, is this your business, or what's going on there again? Is this your business, or is this you helping other people where you're a shareholder or something?
No, it's my business, but I'm driving that, but I'm doing it with there's another 2 or 3, and we're joint founders.
And one of the questions I wrote down. So, when you talk about smart growth, which by the way I think is a great phrase, what is smart growth? What does smart growth mean to Roya Croudace? What is it?
Think of another word for it, because it is what it is. So for me, smart growth is simplest terms, it's joining everything up, whether that means coming in and supporting businesses to have that kind of external helicopter view and look at kind of what's happening with the business basics, the different puzzles of the business, and looking at making sure that they're all aligned and where needed, to be flexible or adaptable and bring in kind of innovation or new ideas. So that for me can mean smart growth. It can mean a range of things. It can mean, as we said, looking at, so if you're looking at funding and finance, been working recently with a great finance broker, but it's understanding what finance is out there, but how that could also work with grants and match funding and other schemes out there. So for me, that's what smart growth is. Simplest terms, it's joining everything up and making it simple for businesses.
Yes, that's very simple in a very non-simple way. So with 5 minutes left, your final song today is by Ed Sheeran. So why did you pick this?
Well, I like Ed Sheeran, and I was trying to think of a specific one. And again, it's one I like songs that put a smile on my face. Just, yeah, I think particularly with us in lockdown till recently, it's one that kind of makes me want to, well, depending which one you've chosen, but they generally make me want to dance.
This is Paul Waite on Aspen Waite Radio.
That was Ed Sheeran and Galway Girl. Can't beat a bit of twiddly diddly. Me being a bit of a British mongrel. Got 5 minutes left to our wonderful guest today, Roya Croudace. Just talking a bit of shopping between us. Have you ever done anything with Great British Expos, Roya?
I haven't actually, no, Paul.
Yeah, so I think as well as giving you, hope you remember our strapline. Together we are stronger. Yeah, free gift from Uncle Paul.
I've written that down.
I will introduce you to my chums at Great British Expos. I think you would be great value for some really good workshops and stuff. Just in case you don't know, so I do a live show for Great British Expos every Friday, and I think there's 3,900 people have watched my. These are people like you know, executives. Every Friday, and you get to meet some really good people. So the other thing, I think we'll do a follow-up with my colleague Hope and talk about some of the more specific areas. It's quite interesting, you know, you sort of quite, I suppose because you're so comfortable in your space, you know, you talk about, you know, like smart growth, but there's so many areas to that. And of course, you know, it's funny because I think actually business is much more simple than people think it is, but there are also a myriad of things to go through, aren't there?
There is, and I think, you know, you said, what do I mean by smart growth? And actually, I guess this is the value that for per business, smart growth can mean slightly different things. So there's similarities and slight different tweaks depending on size and where you're at and what your objectives are and what your industry is. And that is and that is where going in and being able to understand that I guess is one of my things that skill sets I always say is because of the range of experience. And I think in publishing, actually, because you kind of got thrown into so many different sectors and you had to run with it. Suddenly, you were there and you had a deadline in a week and you were running teams and, suddenly jumping from women's homes magazine into electronics or construction. So you had to pick things up very quickly and run with it and make an impact. So that's done me good, actually, which is where I can, I kind of can come into a business, as I said, with the helicopter view, and then be able to really home in and identify with the MD where the most value, what smart growth means.
So what sort of customers do you want to have, and how do you go about charging them?
Customer-wise, really, I mean, just by the nature of what I've been doing recently, I guess it's been interesting for me because I've got back into working with a couple of businesses back in the construction side of things. Obviously, been doing some work with finance company as well, but also with a tech startup. So a couple of those around commercialization. So I guess for me, it's not so much about sector or size. It's more about business that is looking to scale up, of course, looking to grow, but also about the mindset and about kind of their willingness to engage and where their ambition is. And I think that's quite important because, as you know, but when you're passionate about something, for me, it's important to be working with businesses that, we can really kind of start making some headway with that. From a charging perspective, again, it varies, Paul. It can be from a couple of hours a month to, depending what's required, to something, more thorough or project based.
What about success fees?
What do you mean by success fees? Sorry, explain to me a little bit more.
You're helping people with funding, so do you just, is everything you do?
Yes. Sorry, absolutely, I understand what you mean. Yeah, no, absolutely. So there will be some areas such as funding and finance, which are very much based on that.
Okay, so that was wonderful. So, as I say, we're going to do some follow-ups with Roya. If your taste buds have been salivated by what you've heard today, then get in touch with us and we'll put you in touch with Roya. But as I say, we'll be doing some workshops anyway. So thank you for being such a wonderful guest today, Roya.
Paul, thank you so much. And one final thing I'm quickly going to mention, because it's one of the schemes, you mentioned furlough, but another scheme that will be finishing end of this year is the Kickstart programme, which is a great scheme. Happy to tell you more.
Right, so that was Roya, and this is the news.
Online, on DAB, and on the Aspen Waite radio app. This is Aspen Waite.